All right. Do you know that telecom companies, logistic companies, airlines, restaurants, and even retail companies like Avenue Supermarts and PVR Inox, they have significant operating lease obligations. So, what are these operating lease obligations and how does it really impact them? Okay, so, we'll learn all of that in this rather short video, right? So, let's take the example of a company like PVR Inox, right? Say they do not own the space or the premises within which they run the business within the malls. They don't own that space. They take that space. They take that space on rent. Okay. So what impact does those rental obligations or those operating lease obligations has on their balance sheet and on their profit and loss statement? So we'll understand that in this video. Okay. And of course, we'll also, at a high level, we'll try to understand as to how do you really interpret the profit and loss statement of these businesses which have these high lease obligations. How do you understand their P&L? Okay, from an investor lens. All right. All right, so this rather short video is really a snippet from the detailed video that I've made on the equity research and valuation of PVR Inox. Okay, so I'll put the link of that detailed video here. All right, please do check it out if you're interested in learning equity research and valuation step by step. All right, thank you. And one thing very important is uh, is is to note the accounting treatment related to rent payments. Okay, all right. See, back in 2019, okay, so all the rent payments were expensed in the P&L. Okay. What it means is कि जो भी आपको whatever rent payments, whatever leasing, whatever rent obligations that you have with the developers or with the mall owners, okay, those rent payments were expensed. They appeared as a line item, as a significant line item in the P&L, okay, and the income statement. Back in 2019, accounting rules related to rent payments they changed. Okay, accounting का कहना है कि see, when a company takes loan from a bank, okay, then they are obligated to pay interest and principal payments to that bank. Because it's an obligation to pay the bank or whomsoever they have taken the loan from, that obligation appears as debt in the balance sheet. Similarly, okay, since this company or any company for that matter, if it has an obligation to make payments, in this case, the PVR Inox has obligation to pay rent payments, okay, to mall owners or developers, since they are obligated to make these rent payments over a period of time, okay, that obligation should appear as debt in the books of PVR, debt or lease liabilities. Okay, क्योंकि वो they have entered into a leasing contract with the movie developer, with the mall owners or developers. So वो जो liability है, it should appear as a lease liability or debt in the books of PVR. All right. So this 12,000 million of rent expense, okay, is actually not shown on the P&L. Rather, it becomes part of the lease liability in the balance sheet. Okay. So let me move over to the annual report and show you the notes to the financial statements. Jahan pe you have this lease liability, because this 12,000, as I said, is not a part of the P&L anymore. This is a part of the lease liability. So let me move over there and read it. All right. So I have the annual report up. Okay, so if you look at this lease liability, okay, so lease liability of 60,000 million or 6,000 CR. Okay, and then if you look at the notes, read through the notes, the leases are typically with the rental leases are typically with a non-cancelable lease term of 5 to 7 years, with an option to the company to extend lease term till 10, 15 years. Okay? After the non-cancelable period, the group can exit from the property without any material financial obligations towards the developers or the lessors. All right. तो वो जो 12,000 है, okay? All right. See, so it's very important there to read the financial notes to the financial statements. I cannot stress on this enough. In fact, when we get to the valuation, before we begin with the valuation, which would be the next segment, okay, then I would show you ki how do I, capture all these notes. Okay, so वो हम वहाँ cover करेंगे. Any which ways, see, a question comes कि 12,000 तो हमें दिखा रहा था rental expense, okay, but here you have 60,000. Okay, so let's just talk through. Let's just understand as to how do you have like 60,000 here. Okay, एक general sense बना लेते हैं कि why do you have 60,000 or 6,000 CR here, but rent payment is only 1,200 CR. Okay, let's understand how they came up with how they came up with this 60,000 million worth of lease liability. ठीक है? Lease liability, we saw the tenure of the lease liability typically is 5 to 7 years. All right, so lease liability is nothing but the present value of the future
lease rental payments, okay, that they are required to make. Okay, so let's say they need to make lease rental payments over a 6-year period. We saw 5 to 7 है तो 6 year ले लेते हैं, ठीक है. And we saw कि they need to make around 12,000 million or 12,000 CR worth of rent payment. Okay, all right. Or the rent escalation is around 4% every year. ठीक है, all right. तो every year कितना देना होगा for the next 6 years? Let's estimate that. ठीक है. So over a 6-year term, okay, over a 6-year term, they would have made these payments. Overall, they would have made around 80 million or 8,000 CR worth of payment. ठीक है, अगर इसका टोटल करो. ठीक है. Now, I said lease liability is the present value. Lease liability, the balance sheet is the present value of all these future lease payments that they need to make. ठीक है. All right. And ठीक है. And if you see, I did not show you that note. Okay, that they discount these lease liabilities at 9.5%. इसका मतलब, see, whenever something appears as debt or as debt on the balance sheet, lease liability essentially is a debt. Okay? So whenever something appears as debt on the balance sheet, okay, you need to make interest payments on that. ठीक है, अभी मैं और समझाता हूं उसे. ओके, और इंटरेस्ट रेट जो है वो 9.5% है. ऑलराइट, okay, that is also given in the notes to the financial statements. So if you discount the future lease payments at 9.5% interest rate, let's just do that. तो अगर मैं डिस्काउंट किया मैंने और इसको मैं ट्रैक कर दूं, ऑलराइट, सो टोटल वैल्यू क्या है? ये लीज लायबिलिटी, ये तो मेरे लीज रेंटल पेमेंट्स हैं और ये मेरा प्रेजेंट वैल्यू है. तो टोटल जो मेरा लीज लायबिलिटी है वो कितना? लीज लायबिलिटी इज द प्रेजेंट वैल्यू ऑफ all these lease rentals over the next 6 years. Okay? So it's around 58,000 million or around 5,800 CR, which is very close to the 60,000 number that we saw. 60,000 million या 6,000 CR number देखा था balance sheet, it's very close to that number. So this is how they estimate. They take the present value of the future lease payments. मैं मोटा मोटा आपको बता रहा हूं कैसे they estimate that. And I said, see, they pay interest on that. ये liability side में है, liability side of the balance sheet में है ये, okay? This number, all right, this lease liability is on the liability side of the balance sheet, okay? And they pay interest, they make interest payments on this at 9.5%. ये दिया हुआ है, as I said. ठीक है, इसका सिग्निफिकेंस है, मैं अभी आता हूं. अब liability आपने क्रिएट कर दी, so you need to have in the asset side of the balance sheet, you need to have something which counters lease liability. Okay, so what they do is, the accountants, what they've done is, they create a right of use asset to counterbalance the lease liability on the asset side. ठीक है, ताकि बैलेंस हो जाए बैलेंस शीट. मोटा मोटा ऐसे समझो. तो क्योंकि आपने एक एसेट क्रिएट किया है, so you need to amortize or depreciate the asset as well. ठीक है, तो थोड़ा कुछ amortization आएगा every year. और lease liability से you would have some interest payments as well at 9.5% or whatever the interest rate is. All right. The sum of this amortization, of course, amortization and interest, both of these, ये तो balance sheet में appear करेगा. All right, and amortization and interest, they of course appear on the P&L statement. Okay, all right, and the sum of this amortization and interest payments, okay, in any given year is almost equal to the rent payment. Is the rent payment that you need to make in a particular year. Particular. Okay, all right. तो बेसिकली हुआ क्या है कि अंडर द न्यू रूल्स ऑफ अकाउंटिंग, द रेंट पेमेंट क्या हुआ उस साल का क्या हुआ? इट हैज मूव टू, इट इज नाउ पार्ट ऑफ द अमोर्टाइजेशन एंड द इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट्स. ओके, ऑलराइट. ओके, एंड सी, accounting basis mein this treatment makes sense because see why this was done is because let's say any retailer or they shut shop, let's say after 2 years, okay, they've made only 2 years worth of these rental payments and they shut shop in the 3rd year. Okay, see, they're still obligated, although they have gone out of business, but they're still obligated to make these lease rental payments, right? They can't run away with it, although they've shut shop. Okay, so they're obligated to pay. That's why it's important. So accountants thought this is important to represent this as a liability. ओके, ऑलराइट. तो फ्यूचर को रेंटल पेमेंट्स को डिस्काउंट करके यू गेट द लीज लायबिलिटी, उस पे आप इंटरेस्ट कंपोनेंट होता है, ओके, एंड देन यू क्रिएट अ काउंटर एसेट इन द एसेट साइड, उस पे उसको अमोर्टाइज करते हो, एंड द सम ऑफ अमोर्टाइजेशन इंटरेस्ट इज एक्चुअली द रेंटल पेमेंट इन अ पर्टिकुलर ईयर, ठीक है, which would be close to 12,000 in year one. Okay. In fact, I had written a blog on this subject 4 years ago. Okay. So the reason why I'm bringing this up again is, if you read through this statement, okay, under the new leasing method and the finance leases, rent expense is broken into amortization of the ROU asset and the interest expense on the lease liability, which is what I was trying to explain just now, right? Okay. तो अब इसे I flipped over to the investor presentation, और उसमें the way they report their P&L. Okay. So this view ना, ये वाला, this is actually what is reported to the street as per the accounting, as per whatever the accounting is. Okay. And this, on the other hand, okay, is after you have removed the accounting adjustments. ये वाला, ठीक है? All right. See, so if you see without the accounting adjustments, like अगर पुराने तरीके से report करो, which is this one, okay, you would see the rent expenses are actually embedded within the expense line item as a rent line item. They are embedded here. Okay, all right. That's why but if you see in the new form of reporting, okay, rent expenses of 12,000 million are no longer a part of this expense. Okay, all right. In fact, as we saw, till now, they of course are part of the balance sheet, okay, but in the P&L, they are a part of depreciation and amortization and finance cost. Okay, all right. In the new form of accounting, in the old form of accounting, which is this one, okay, you see rent is higher, but depreciation, amortization and finance costs are lower. Okay, because rental payments इसमें नहीं embedded है यहाँ पे. In the new form of accounting, rental payments are embedded within amortization and finance cost. Okay. So what happens is, okay, in the new form of accounting, since expense में you don't have rental payments embedded, okay, anymore. Okay. So EBITDA level pay, you look more profitable. Okay. But after, from EBITDA, you remove depreciation, you remove finance cost, from a profit before tax and profit after tax perspective, okay, that this and this, okay, you look less profitable. All right. But in the old form of accounting, after removing these new accounting adjustments, in the EBITDA level, you look less profitable. Okay, you look less profitable because you have this bulky rent expense embedded within the expense line item. Okay, so you look less profitable. Okay, all right, but you look more profitable from profit before tax when you go down. You look slightly more profitable. Okay, all right. So this is just accounting. All right. So my advice to you would be, as an investor, we should look at this, this method, Purana method, basically after removing these accounting adjustments. Okay, because the reason why I'm saying that, you should, that's just this is just an advice. Okay, because it just becomes easier, because you know कि आपके actual rent payments क्या हैं यहाँ पे expense statement के अंदर embedded हैं, लेकिन वो split करते हैं. Okay, यहाँ पे जैसे split किया हुआ है. See, they have कहाँ पे गया? See, they have made this split here. ठीक है, ये 12,000 यहाँ पे embedded है. Okay, so it just becomes easier to understand instead of you trying to understand कि कैसे split हैं across, कैसे spread हैं across depreciation and finance. Okay, so anyway, I thought this is important because a lot of people struggle to kind of understand, financial statements with this new form of accounting. So it's important that we understand what has happened and how do you really interpret from an investor lens. Interpret these financial statements from an investor lens. All right. All right.
All right. So hope you found this short video helpful. Please do write to me if you have any questions. And also write to me if you want to join my equity research and valuation cohort program, because in this program, I intend to teach equity research and valuation topics by analyzing and valuing 2-3 different companies from different industries. Okay. So if you are serious about building a career in this field, then certainly you would find this cohort program helpful. Or if you want to just learn how to thoroughly analyze and value companies on your own, then of course you would find it helpful, very helpful as well. All right. So do write to me. All right. Thank you.